So I have a couple stories about Joe Biden today that are going to knock your socks off. I mean, this is such ivory tower stuff. This man is colossally disconnected from the views of your average American, and it is astonishing just how deep the rot goes. So Mediaite says, Biden reportedly mystified. His approval rating is below Trump's. Wants more Democrats defending him on television. Yeah, Joe, that's the problem. The problem is there aren't enough Democrats defending you on television. I mean, the guy's like 1,000 years old. He's been in Washington, D.C. since 1786. And he thinks this is just like, a marketing problem where he's at right now. So let's dive into the piece. They say, President Joe Biden is frustrated with his midterm messaging. President Joe Biden is frustrated his midterm messaging isn't resonating with voters. His approval ratings are lower than former President Donald Trump, and Democrats are not taking to television to defend him more, according to an in-depth NBC report on the current state of play in the West Wing. The article published Monday titled Inside a Biden White House Adrift offers a grim look into Biden's communications efforts and his administration's failed efforts to flip the script ahead of the November midterm elections, in which Democrats are widely expected to suffer heavy losses. The report says Biden is voicing frustrations within his White House that he is not getting credit from Americans or the news media for the country's low unemployment and other achievements of his administration, particularly on the economy. Yeah, Joe, because there are problems with the economy that far outweigh whatever upsides you're pretending are there. Like, look, you want to talk about the unemployment rate? Fine, that's fair. Talk about the unemployment rate and try to use that to boost your numbers. But the fact of the matter is, the unemployment rate that's always cited is not the actual unemployment rate. The unemployment rate that's called like the U6 or the U7 unemployment rate, that's the actual unemployment rate because they fudge the numbers with the standard unemployment number. So the reason why this isn't translating into high approval ratings is because that's not that much of a bright spot. It's just not. And then when you add inflation into the mix, any of like the wage gains, for example, are destroyed by inflation. Inflation is more than the wage gains. So people are losing ground. So of course you're not going to get, like, what do you want? You want people to throw a party for you or heap praise on you when you're just objectively not doing a good job? They say the vast majority of Americans currently feel the U.S. is headed in the wrong direction, a sentiment driven by high inflation and a series of bad news headlines from the war in Ukraine to mass shootings to fears over monkeypox. Biden grouses, weird word, that Republicans aren't getting their share of the blame for legislative gridlock in Congress, while he's repeatedly faulted for not getting his agenda passed. The report adds of the president's frustrations. So, Joe, this is your bed, and now you're going to sleep in it. This is a problem of your own making, because Biden loved to go out there and say, I'm going to be the person that breaks the fever of Washington, D.C. I'm going to be the person that gets the Republicans to work with me. I'm truly bipartisan. Obama wasn't able to do it. I'm going to be the one who's able to do it. I'll heap praise on Mitch McConnell and say kind words about him. And I mean, I remember when he was on the campaign trail, he said, as soon as Trump's gone, it's going to be like a fever is breaking, and they're going to want to work with me. Well, not only have the Republicans not wanted to work with him at all, he can't even get Manchin and Sinema on board, and they're Democrats, for his agenda. So he's totally ineffectual. His theory of change has failed miserably, and then he's like, I don't understand. Why are people blaming me? Well, they're blaming you because they should blame you. It didn't work. What you did didn't work. They say Biden's approval rating currently sits at 40.4%, which is just under or about equal to former President Donald Trump's 40.8% approval rating at the same time during his presidency, according to the Real Clear Politics average of polls. He's now lower than Trump, and he's really twisted about it, a person close to the White House told NBC News. The report adds that Biden is mystified his approval could be as low as Trump's, and that it's a particular sore spot for the president. Quote, the president has also told aides he doesn't think enough Democrats go on television to defend him, added the report, which was extensively sourced from inside the White House. The report also notes the president's frustration that his use of the term ultra MAGA is not only has not only been embraced by the right, but has become a kind of rallying cry to oppose Biden. Okay. I mean, this was incredibly predictable. Of course it was predictable. The whole idea of ultra MAGA in the first place was dumb. It was a way for Joe Biden to try to run on the idea that Trump is bad, since he won on the idea that Trump is bad in 2020. He's just going back to that same playbook. But it's stale and it's played out, and now you're the one that's in the driver's seat. You're the one who can govern, and you're not doing a good job with that. So just saying, like, these other guys are really bad, that's not sufficient. That's not enough. People are going to say, what have you done for me lately? So what they decided to do is tweak the messaging and just say, well, we said MAGA was bad before. What if we said now they're ultra MAGA? And I bet you there were like 6 or 7 Democratic staffers, massively overpaid, 6-figure people who came up with that, and they were sitting around a boardroom table, and the idiots like Jen Psaki and Joe Biden were like, yes, nailed it. This is going to win us the midterms. The phrase tested well in polling reviewed by the White House, but it also had the unintended effect of firing up the Trump faithful. Merchandisers have found a hot market for ultra MAGA t-shirts, the report adds, noting that Biden himself had come up with the idea to use the term. He shares the view that we haven't landed on a winning midterm message, and he's putting a lot of pressure on people to figure out what that is, the report notes, quoting another source close to the White House. So Biden is putting pressure on other people to be like, why is nothing resonating? Why am I not doing better in the polls? I don't understand this. This is on you. Come up with something. Hold on, bro. You're the president of the United States of America. You are the most powerful person on planet Earth. You come up with something. Apparently he came up with ultra MAGA, so I take that back. Maybe he shouldn't come up with something new because it'll probably be just as stupid as that. Look, here's the bottom line, guys. The issue here is that he thinks it's a marketing problem. He thinks it's a PR problem or like an advertising problem. That's not the issue, Joe. Because any sort of advertising or marketing or PR you would do is just putting lipstick on a pig. The problem is a substantive one. The problem is you are not materially delivering for people. I always go back to this fact because it's an amazing fact and it's something that everybody should know. Joe Biden had his highest approval rating ever right after he cut people a $1,400 check. You want to know why? Because when you give people $1,400, they tend to go, I kind of like this guy. It's not rocket science. Politics is not rocket science. You materially improved people's lives with that check. You did something for them, so they did something for you. Now, even that, and we don't need to get into all the details of this, but they originally said they were going to do 2,000. They weaseled out and did 1,400 and said, well, Trump already gave you 600, so this is just making it 2,000 total. It was Weasley. But honestly, people were able to look past that because they're like, hey, at least you're giving me something. That's when he had his highest approval rating. He's been on a decline ever since then. And the reason's very simple. They dangled in front of everybody's faces this policy agenda, which was genuinely popular. When you look at that original Build Back Better bill, it was just packed full of things that would be life-changing for working people. We're talking about universal pre-K, elder care, lower prescription drug prices, Medicare expansion. We're talking about extended child tax credit. These are all things that were through the roof in terms of polling, and we know would materially improve lives. Not only did they not get Build Back Better through, he didn't get a single provision of a bill that was packed full of like 50 provisions through. He didn't get a single one through. Not only that, he got to the point where he didn't even try. He didn't twist Joe Manchin's arms, like LBJ style or FDR style. He didn't go after Kyrsten Sinema. He didn't, have a meeting with them where he said, look, you're gonna do the right thing or there's gonna be consequences for it. Put that aside. He didn't even break out the executive order pen in any serious way. This is the problem, Joe. So look, I pulled this up for you guys just to show you because some people might watch this and if they don't know better, they might say, well, Kyle, you're being really hard on him. He is facing the obstruction. He's doing the best that he can. He can't do it all on his own. I mean, that's the thing they always go back. I can't do it all on my own. Biden just said that about gun reform. I can't dictate this stuff all on my own. Well, David Dayen of the American Prospect wrote this great piece, okay? This guy's a policy wonk to the max. So he made the executive action tracker. So these are the things that we know the president has the ability and the right to do through executive orders, okay? How many things has he done? Out of 110 potential executive actions, Biden has only done 22 things. 22 out of 110. 22 out of 110. So if you're wondering, why are my numbers so low? Why does everybody hate me? On top of the standard problems that we already talked about, you're not doing anything, and you can do stuff. And I'll just always go back to the same ones we bring up time and time again, because it's the low-hanging fruit. It's the obvious stuff. Biden could legalize marijuana through executive order. He could free every non-violent drug offender held at the federal level. You know, he could pardon sentences. He can commute sentences. He can eliminate all student loan debt with the stroke of a pen. He even has the authority, and this is one that I tend to forget every now and then, but is back in the repertoire because I read through all these earlier today. He even has the authority to lower prescription drug prices on his own with current delegated authority. And he could just make government generics, too, to compete with the pharmaceutical companies. He's not doing it. He's not doing it. And, again, we don't need to go through all these, but David Dayen in the American Prospect is called the Executive Action Tracker. And you can see here, all these blank ones he didn't do. The green ones he did do. Red, he not only did he not do, it's like he wanted to do the opposite. So you can see here, there's just a lot of blanks. A lot of blanks, a lot of like partial credit that he's given on certain things, which honestly is kind of weaselly, and it's a little bit open to interpretation as to whether or not you want to give him any credit for it. So break out that executive order, pen dog, or at the very least, fight for some real shit. Bernie brought this up 1,000 times, and Bernie's 100% correct when he says, well, why wouldn't you do standalone bills that are provisions from Build Back Better? That Sinema and Manchin say, oh, I support that. So, oh, do you? Okay, here, vote for it. Here's a bill on universal pre-K. Vote for it. Make them prove it that they're for it. Make them prove it. And then if they're not, okay, well, then they're embarrassed. Then you could use that to clonk them over the head politically and maybe get somebody in there and primary them and get somebody in there that'll back your agenda. Guys, you could even just... The Democrats have the ability to eliminate the filibuster if they want to, or to just give themselves more cracks at reconciliation, which means you win on legislation with 51 votes and you don't need the 60. They're not doing it. He's not doing any of it. So the fact that he hasn't done any of this stuff and he's like, I don't get it. Why do people hate me? Because you're not doing anything. You're not doing anything. And he had all of this soaring rhetoric when he was running for office about, we're going to do it. We're going to take on the right and pass good legislation. And then now he's in there and he's sitting there twiddling his thumbs when he's not taking naps. So get your shit together, Joe. I don't know what else to tell you. You have nobody to blame but yourself. Your staffers suck, I'll give you that. But the buck stops with you. And you're the worst of all of them. Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.